On an ordinary Wednesday morning, Michael Zemek was absorbed in the mundane task of washing his car when he witnessed a white crossover screeching to a halt outside his modest house. Michael Zemek saw a couple seated in the front of a Kia Sportage, a very calm man, but the woman beside him, consumed by palpable fear. Michael approached the vehicle, only to be interrupted by a deafening explosion in the car.
A devastating morning for emergency services that rocked a quiet suburban street. The three little children didn't stand a chance.
The woman was engulfed in flames from head to toe. Acting quickly, Michael seized a hose and bravely battled the relentless inferno, determined to rescue her from the clutches of certain death.
Investigators at the scene are also reeling from the tragedy.
What events had led to this catastrophic outcome?
Neighbours were visibly shaken by what they'd seen.
Bit upset.
Just sad, that's all. Shouldn't happen. It's horrible, really horrible.
Today we delve into the story of strong and beautiful Hannah Clarke, who lost her battle against her misogynist, cowardly husband.
They were fitness trainers, business partners who had it all until their marriage fell apart.
On the 4th of October 2019, at approximately 10 in the morning, 4 months before the tragedy, 42-year-old Rowan Baxter was pulled over by police while driving the same Kia Sportage, with his 31-year-old wife, Hannah Clarke, sitting in the passenger side.
Hi driver, how are you? Thanks for coming off the road. It's a little bit safer. Kate from Capella Bar Road Policing. Our AMPR's let us know that your vehicle is actually currently recorded as cancelled registration.
The woman sitting in the passenger seat is Hannah Clarke, born in Brisbane, Australia, on September 8, 1988. Her parents were Lloyd and Suzanne Clarke. She had a younger brother named Nat. Hannah was vibrant and compassionate, always exuding an infectious smile. Alongside her nurturing nature, Hannah possessed a competitive streak, thriving as a personal trainer in a local gym. Committed to maintaining her health and fitness, she dedicated herself to her work. When she was 20, she met a man sitting in the driver's seat named Rowan Baxter in a boxing class, who was 11 years older than her. He used to play rugby professionally for the New Zealand Warriors.
Her estranged husband, 42-year-old Rowan Baxter, described himself as a top fitness coach who once played professional NRL in New Zealand.
She was beautiful, he was handsome. The attraction was strong and they soon got closer. Rowan had been married before but divorced when he met Hannah. Rowan already had a child from his previous marriage, and he was still living with his ex-wife for the sake of their child. Some people do this, but it's not always healthy, especially if the breakup wasn't amicable. Hannah's family wasn't initially fond of Rowan due to his age and living situation, but he eventually won them over with his charm. Even Nat, Hannah's brother, was skeptical of Rowan at first but came around eventually.
He seemed at the start like a good bloke. There was a few things, but yeah, you didn't see, obviously, what we've seen now. You couldn't have seen that from the start.
Rowan, known for his muscular physique and history in professional sports, shared Hannah's profession as a personal trainer. However, unlike Hannah, Rowan struggled to retain clients due to his confrontational demeanor and steroid use. His volatile temperament led to frequent conflicts with gym members and a revolving door of clients. Despite Hannah's family's concerns, she remained committed to her relationship with Rowan. Despite his ongoing divorce proceedings, Rowan proposed to Hannah in 2011, and the couple exchanged vows the following year in Kingscliff, New South Wales, Australia. They had 3 children, Aaliyah, Laianah, and Trey, born in 2013, 2015, and 2016 respectively. Today the couple was on their usual routine, first hitting the gym first thing in the morning, and now they were going to fetch some coffee. It was then they were stopped because the registration to the car had been cancelled.
Yeah, so it's currently recorded as cancelled registration.
What?
So it hasn't been read, so it's gone, which means that it's 82 days past the last time it was registered. Have you got your driver's licence on you?
This is not my car. So
No, but you're the driver, so I have to ask for your driver's licence.
Sorry, it's not my car. You want me to take my car in the morning?
I'm with you. I thought you're... Yeah. What's your... I just have to get you to state your full and correct name for me.
Rowan Charles Dexter.
Yeah.
So I thought the reg I thought was due in October.
Talk to me about it, because it's your car.
Yeah, no.
The officer asked Rowan about the overdue registration, to which he responded, "It's not my car." But since it was him in the driving seat, the officer can ask him for his license. This visibly bothered Rowan, and he snapped at Hannah as she tried to explain she thought the registration was due to be renewed in October. "Don't talk to me about it, 'cause it's your car." One might think Rowan is aggravated because he feels wronged in this situation. It wasn't his car, so it wasn't his fault, but the officer insisted on citing him on his license. However, the truth is, this isn't the first time Rowan has mistreated his loving wife. It has been going on for a very long time now.
She'd come in and say what happened, the night before, or just some things that the way he'd speak to her. And I know other people at the gym saw it, and it was just, I guess a little bit more aggressive, and my son would never speak to me like that.
To understand his mindset, we have to go back to almost 4 years to 2015. Rowan wasn't always a trainer. Before he met Hannah, he worked as a pharmaceutical sales representative, while Hannah worked in retail. Working as a personal trainer, Rowan struggled to generate sufficient income to support his family, perhaps due to his abrasive personality. Whereas Hannah, with her warm and approachable demeanor, was very good at her job and soon took over the role of the primary breadwinner in their family. This never settled well with Rowan. How a weak woman could be more successful at the gritty job of a personal trainer than him.
On Instagram, a post from 2017 shows former Broncos star turned Australian rugby player Sam Fireday training with him.
In all honesty, Rowan always harbored resentment towards women. Hannah's success likely compounded his frustrations. Despite this dynamic, the couple decided to embark on a joint venture. In 2015, they opened a gym together with the financial backing of Hannah's parents and another investor.
I'm Rowan.
And I'm Hannah. And whether you're just getting started or whether you already have some experience, we would love to hear more about how we can help you improve your health and fitness journey.
With their personal training commitments, both Hannah and Rowan also worked at a sports shoe retailer. Rowan's behavior at the store mirrored his conduct in previous workplaces, where he exhibited disrespect towards female colleagues and customers. His need for control manifested in monitoring Hannah's whereabouts, even during their shared shifts at the retailer.
He was one step ahead of her all the time. He knew conversations that she hadn't talked to him about, maybe us or another person. He knew of it and prompted her, so he had some recording. And
this oppressive behavior extended to personal training sessions, where Rowan displayed a consistent pattern of belittling and undermining female clients. A disturbing incident occurred during a session with Hannah's mother, Sue, where Rowan callously dropped her during training. Rather than showing concern or offering help, he callously mocked her. Despite such troubling behavior, Hannah's parents attempted to accept Rowan for the sake of their daughter's happiness. However, they observed a rapid decline in his demeanor and attitude, particularly after the birth of their children. Despite Hannah's parents' financial investment in their business, Rowan's disrespectful conduct towards customers persisted, worsening over time. His disapproving remarks towards clients, coupled with worsening behavior on the domestic front, painted a troubling picture of his character. Coming back to the traffic stop, Rowan was then informed this wasn't the first time the car's registration was overdue. This was in fact a second offense.
Which would be the same one which you've done again,
Yeah, so in regards to that, because this is your second type 2 offence, we actually have to remove the number plates and actually immobilise your vehicle for 7 days. Okay. So what we do is we still can drive the vehicle home. Yeah, so don't stress about that. What it means is I'm going to put some stickers on your car to say for 7 days you can't drive the vehicle. Nor can, so the next time after that it becomes 90 days, and believe it or not, the fourth time it becomes a forfeiture, which means we take the vehicle. So it's just a process we have to follow. So there's a little bit of paperwork to do, but we'll explain it all to you and we'll make sure you can get home today.
Today the car will be immobilized for 7 days. If they repeat the offense, then it will be 90 days. And on their fourth offense, the car will be impounded permanently. If you believe that the poor guy is being treated unfairly, then don't. The abuse he has been putting on his poor wife is way more gruesome. Hannah and Rowan's marriage was incredibly troubled, marked by various forms of abuse: physical, sexual, emotional, and financial. The abuse was not predominantly physical, which made it harder to recognize, even for the victim. Emotional and financial abuse are just as harmful as physical abuse, but they're harder to identify because they're less visible.
The extent of domestic violence in Australia is shocking. On average, 1 woman a week is killed by a current or former partner.
Rowan's controlling behavior gradually became evident to those around Hannah. He exhibited road rage and jealousy towards her relationships, and even controlled what she wore and whom she spoke to. Hannah wasn't allowed to wear shorts, apparently because shorts are for children. He was just insecure. Rowan also doesn't allow Hannah to wear pink, saying pink attracts too much unwanted attention. He cloaked his unhealthy possessiveness behind the veil of protection. But little did Hannah know, her so-called protector would be one destroying her life forever. Rowan went to extremes, recording Hannah's conversations, interrogating her about her interactions, and involving their children in his manipulation tactics. He deliberately isolated Hannah from her friends and family, causing a significant strain on her relationship with her brother Nat, so much so that Nat almost didn't invite Hannah to his wedding. He further exerted control by forcing Hannah to delete her personal Facebook page and creating a joint Facebook account controlled by him under the guise of it being for their family and business. All to isolate Hannah further and maintain control over her life.
Yeah, as far as I knew, the registration was due October. Like, I was waiting to get a letter in the mail.
Yep. So with that, have you got a smartphone?
Yeah.
Yep. Go and grab it, and I'll show you an app that you can download. I would have to get. Have you got? For some reason, and I don't know why, I've got no plastic sleeves left for Type 2s.
Yeah.
So if you Queensland Rego Check, if you download that app.
The app.
Yep. So just go there and go. So yeah, regardless, it's still it's actually the driver's responsibility, and obviously the owners as well, to make sure that the vehicle is actually at the time registered. This here will help you. So once it's downloaded, open that up. No, it's not a problem.
Because I'm the one that, like, I handle all the bills and all that, and I had no idea.
Open that one now, and just out of interest, pop your own plate number in. So that's the vehicle just on the road there, and you can see it's current until the 7th. So whatever vehicle you're driving, what you can then do is say that's your own vehicle, you can actually add to calendar.
On the contrary to the abrasive and somewhat dismissive behavior of Rowan, Hannah maintains her composure as she addresses the police, taking responsibility for managing the household finances. She is polite and has a genuine likable personality. It's obvious how the police officer was even more cooperative with her, explaining how she can avoid it ever happening again. But notice how her demeanor changes when she gets back in close proximity to her toxic husband. It wasn't because of the situation or the officer's presence, it was her own husband creating that effect. Now because of her, Rowan won't get his fix of coffee on time. She half-heartedly tried to ask for a quick detour at a coffee shop, but they were only allowed to drive the car back home and not move it for 7 days. One can only imagine the mental trauma she had to go through after the officer left. Rowan was not only mentally torturing her, he was also sexually abusive. He would force Hannah to sleep with him every night and satisfy his perverted tendencies in bed. If Hannah refused intimacy with Rowan, he would make her life miserable. Once he threw her watch across the room in frustration when he noticed that Hannah was not enjoying herself in the bed with him. Rowan would also manipulate their children to further control Hannah. He didn't physically harm them, but he would use tactics like throwing away their toys or preventing them from visiting Hannah's mother, knowing it would upset her. The children were aware of this dynamic, understanding that if mom upset dad, they would be denied visits to grandma. It's disturbing that young children had to navigate such emotional manipulation. A concerning fact about Rowan Baxter is that he had a history of abuse in his previous relationship. His first wife attempted to leave him several times before succeeding. Rowan even confided in a friend about thoughts of murdering his first wife, claiming he had prepared to kill her. Hannah later informed the police that Rowan had confessed to threatening his ex-wife, using it as another method of manipulation. Unfortunately, with only Hannah able to get paying customers in the gym, and Rowan unable to pull his weight. In fact, his behavior only pushed paying customers away. The gym struggled financially, accruing debts of over $75,000 by late 2019, leading to its shutting down. Keep in mind, all of this occurred before Hannah and Rowan separated. In 2019, Hannah and Rowan's separation was tumultuous, as expected. The extreme caution Hannah had to exercise in leaving Rowan speaks volumes of his tyranny and control. It was a painstaking process, orchestrated with meticulous care. Hannah's friends played a pivotal role in her escape plan. One day, while Baxter was at work, they quickly picked up the kids from school, packed a few essential belongings into 2 garbage bags, and whisked them away to Hannah's parents' house. The meager possessions they brought were a testament to their urgent need to flee the toxic environment they had endured for far too long. Hannah's mother, Sue, vividly remembered the sense of relief that washed over Hannah upon arriving at her parents' home. However, amidst the relief, there lingered an ominous dread. In a haunting moment, Hannah confided in her mother, "Who gets the children when he kills me, Mom?" It was a chilling statement that underscored Hannah's profound fear and the gravity of her situation. After their escape, Hannah's mother urged her to seek help from the police. Eventually, she obtained a domestic violence restraining order against Rowan Baxter. The major point of contention in their separation was custody of their children. Initially, Hannah proposed an arrangement where Baxter would have 165 days of custody each year, alternating between 3 and 4 days per week. However, Baxter refused to agree to this arrangement, against his lawyer's advice. He insisted on a perfectly split 50-50 custody, which was essentially similar to Hannah's proposal. It was clear that Baxter's refusal was more about control than practicality, making the situation difficult for Hannah.
Did it shock you that he was capable of doing that?
100%. You know, Hannah had her suspicions that he might try something to her, but we all thought, no, he couldn't. It was just a vicious attack to make her suffer as long as he could, and that was it. It was, I still can't get over it.
Rowan's behavior with the children became increasingly concerning after their separation. In November 2019, Hannah returned from the gym to discover that Rowan had taken the children and turned off his phone, preventing her from reaching them. Thankfully, the children returned unharmed, but it was clear Rowan was exerting control. On a weekend before Christmas of the same year, Rowan took all 3 kids out for 4 hours, but then refused to return them, despite Hannah's plans to visit their great-grandmother. This disregard for their agreed-upon schedule only added to the tension. He was supposed to return the kids by 4 p.m., but didn't show up until 8 p.m. It's unimaginable how terrifying these situations must have been for Hannah, fearing for her children's safety. The children themselves were also scared. Aaliyah, the oldest, called Hannah in tears while with her father, expressing how scared she was as they drove on an unknown highway. The next day, she got help from another mom to call Hannah and reassure her of their safety. It's heartbreaking that such young children had to experience such fear and uncertainty. At the time, Aaliyah was 6, Laianah was 4, and Trey was 3, still very much in need of protection and security. Hannah's mother, Sue, remembers how Aaliyah, the oldest child, was intelligent and fully aware of the situation. Aaliyah was incredibly articulate. She was reading ahead of her years. She was a gifted child who enjoyed telling stories to her younger siblings. Not only that, she had also taken after her mother when it came to physical fitness. Rowan prevented Aaliyah from contacting her mom or grandmother when she was with him. Every morning, Sue had to reassure Aaliyah that she wouldn't see her father that day because she was so terrified. It's incredibly heartbreaking and disturbing that a 6-year-old would endure such mental anguish. On December 26, 2019, on Boxing Day, Rowan Baxter committed the unthinkable act of kidnapping Laianah. Hannah had planned to meet with him so the kids could play with their Christmas skateboards. With her hands full, Baxter took advantage of the situation.
Our family lawyers, etc. And he took the middle one and just took off with her in my car. Well, this is my other car, but the other car's registered in my name.
Okay.
And now he's telling me he won't give it back.
Where would he be going? Just home?
Probably home, I'm guessing. And now he's trying to play games with me on the phone. No, we've been separated for a few weeks now. I'm staying at my parents'.
So what's led up to this? Just that you've seen each other and he's decided...
Yeah, and he's decided that because I've said to him, you need to wait until we can get this sorted.
Yeah.
You're not having them stay with you because you won't return them. And then I'm like, you go and pull a fucking stunt like this. The other two are absolutely beside themselves. She's pulling her eyes out.
Was anything, like any other words exchanged? Like how was he acting? Or he just said that?
Just a psycho that he's taking her and that's it. And then he just called me now and said, you know, you either bring the other two back or I keep her.
He kept her away for 4 days, leaving Hannah worried and desperate for answers. The unsettling kidnapping was witnessed by a doctor who felt compelled to alert the authorities. She commented that Rowan was in such a hurry that he neglected to secure a seatbelt for the 4-year-old. A caring parent wouldn't behave in such a manner. Detective Sergeant Derek Harris, who conducted a thorough examination of the family's case following the abduction, characterized Rowan Baxter as a narcissist. Giving a statement, he said, he committed reprehensible and inappropriate acts, driven by his primary intent to inflict harm upon Hannah. Despite this alarming incident, the police seemed indifferent, perhaps dismissing it as a father's prerogative. However, following this, Hannah took decisive action and filed a domestic violence restraining order against Rowan, temporarily preventing him from seeing his children. But shockingly, in January 2020, the restraining order was set aside, allowing him full access to his children once again. The justice system's decision to set aside the restraining order underscores its flaws, even in countries like Australia. Sometimes, legal processes fail to protect victims, leaving them vulnerable to further harm. Following the kidnapping incident, the couple attempted mediation to establish a custody agreement. However, Rowan continued to resist signing a legally binding consent order, opting instead for a non-binding parenting agreement, likely seeking more control. In February 2020, a physical assault occurred. Hannah, living with her parents at the time, went outside to retrieve the children from Rowan, who had just arrived. According to Sue, part of the agreement was for her to handle interactions with Rowan, but Hannah, fearing for her safety, intervened and volunteered to receive the kids from him, while Sue watched from the window. Sue witnessed Baxter grabbing Hannah's wrist as she retrieved some papers from his car. These papers turned out to be compromising photos of Hannah in her underwear, intended for use in a domestic violence hearing to discredit her. Rowan strategically placed pictures of Hannah in her underwear around the exterior of his car, visible to the children. When Hannah came out to get the children back, she tried to remove the photos. Baxter responded with extreme force, causing Hannah to suffer with a sprained wrist and a busted lip, an act of physical assault. The situation might have escalated further if Hannah's mother hadn't witnessed the incident and rushed to her daughter's help. This incident was promptly reported to the police, constituting a clear breach of the protection order. Hannah considered pressing charges against Rowan, but decided not to. But as a result of the assault, the parenting agreement he had signed was revoked, and he was denied access to his children. Following the assault, the police initially gave Rowan 48 hours to turn himself in. However, 10 days passed without him being in custody, and when he was finally arrested, his charges were bizarrely downgraded, and he was not held in custody. Had he been arrested, Rowan Baxter wouldn't have gone on to commit the unimaginable atrocity. In mid-February 2020, Hannah expressed to her mother her fear for her life and requested to create a will. She was genuinely concerned that her estranged husband might harm her. On the night of February 18th, Hannah and the children had a phone conversation with Rowan, during which he purportedly cried, manipulating their emotions.
The police issued a domestic violence order against him, which he breached within weeks. The night before he murdered his wife and 3 children, Rowan Baxter called them.
Despite the abuse, Hannah felt sympathy for him. a common tactic used by abusers to maintain control. Investigations later revealed alarming details leading up to February 18th. CCTV footage captured Rowan purchasing zip ties, cleaning fluid, and a fuel can.
It was no snap decision. Rowan Baxter planned to hurt those he claimed to love. 2 days before he killed his family, the 42-year-old could be seen wandering the aisles of a hardware store, first looking at mower fuel, but ultimately deciding on buying a jerry can.
Interestingly, he also bought 3 Kinder Surprise chocolates. The next day, he reached out to a men's helpline, but his intentions were far from seeking genuine assistance. Rowan inquired about behavioral change programs. His interest appeared solely self-serving and aimed at bolstering his position in court.
Not my idea, but apparently I have to do it. I'm not the one that has the problem, but I guess I'm just doing what I'm told.
Okay, you have to do something about it.
Well, I just think it's going to put me in a better position.
On the morning of February 19th, Rowan spent an hour at a cafe where he mentioned to the barista that he had been arguing with his ex-wife and was looking at maps on his phone. He was familiar with the area and was possibly planning his exit. These details underscored the premeditated nature of his actions.
16 hours later, he drove to Camp Hill, stopping at a fuel station on the way before ambushing Ms. Clarke and his children inside their car.
On that fateful morning, Hannah was preparing to take her children to school when Rowan parked across the street and observed them. As she loaded the kids into the car, Rowan casually approached with a fuel can in hand. Suddenly, he ambushed them, wielding a knife and ordering Hannah to drive. At first she resisted, but Rowan was barking at the top of his lungs, demanding her to drive away. Terrified, she complied. Once inside the car, Rowan pulled out the gas can and doused the interior, Hannah and the children with gasoline. Shockingly, he had no gasoline on himself, indicating he didn't intend to die in the ensuing events. Probably in the heat of things, he accidentally splashed some on himself too. With Rowan directing her, Hannah drove. Then she saw a man washing his car on the next street. She attempted to signal for help. It was Michael Zemek washing his car outside his home when he noticed a white Kia Sportage screeching to a halt outside Michael's home. What he witnessed next will forever be etched into Michael's memory. A woman's frantic cry pierced the air, urging someone to call the police, claiming, "He's trying to kill me. He poured petrol on me."
The father has been identified as former New Zealand Warriors player Rowan Baxter. His children, Laianah, Aaliyah and Trey, aged 6, 4 and 3. And their mother, 31-year-old Hannah Baxter. Witnesses say she was heard screaming for help, shouting she'd been covered in petrol moments before the car burst into flames.
Michael saw Rowan restraining Hannah in a tight bear hug inside the vehicle. She was frantically screaming as she struggled to break free. Approaching the passenger side, Michael met Rowan's blank, indifferent gaze, and before Michael could react, Rowan ignited a lighter without hesitation. The sudden blast engulfed the car in flames. The blast was so strong it blew Michael away. Remarkably, despite being fully engulfed in flames, Hannah managed to get out of the burning car. Michael, who had been standing at the passenger side window when the blast occurred, also suffered burns to his hands and face.
A Good Samaritan who desperately tried to help the family in the burning car is now in hospital with burns himself to his face and hands.
But now was not the time to tend to his minor injuries. Michael ran back to the blazing car and bravely attempted to help. Hannah was screaming. Michael still remembers those screams. Her piercing screams were not for her own suffering but for the safety of her children. But in the chaos, Michael didn't register her exact words. By pure chance, an off-duty paramedic happened to be passing by, and when he saw the giant cloud of smoke, he quickly came to the scene. The paramedic, along with Michael, used the hose to extinguish the fire on Hannah, but it wasn't helping too much. The paramedic then encouraged Hannah to drop and roll, hoping to extinguish the flames faster. Despite their efforts, Hannah kept lamenting, "I didn't save my kids. I couldn't save my kids." Before the blast, Michael was only able to get a glance inside the car, and in his brief moment, he did not see any children in the car. When he heard Hannah's desperate plea about her children trapped inside the car, Michael grabbed a hose and began dousing the flames on the car. He made a desperate attempt to reach inside the car, hoping to rescue any children who might still be alive. Unfortunately, the intense heat and the raging fire made it impossible. Within minutes, Hannah was rescued from the blazing car by bystanders, but she was badly burned. Then Rowan emerged from the vehicle. He too was badly burned and disoriented. Shockingly, he ran back into the burning car. Michael assumed he was retrieving his kids, but he returned with no kids. But now, he was holding a knife. Shockingly, with the knife in hand, he prevented those nearby from extinguishing the fire that consumed the car with his children inside. Despite efforts to save them, the flames proved fatal for the innocent victims. After a little while, Rowan attempted to take his own life by plunging the same knife into his chest twice. He sustained burns to 80% of his body and inflicted multiple stab wounds upon himself. Despite the heroic efforts of an off-duty paramedic bystander to save his life, Rowan Baxter succumbed to his self-inflicted injuries. It was determined that, even without the stab wounds, the severity of his burns would likely have led to his death. The toxicology report revealed that Rowan Baxter had no traces of drugs or alcohol in his system, indicating he was completely sober and conscious of his actions. Despite the traumatic ordeal, Hannah managed to convey crucial information to those trying to help her, detailing Baxter's actions before the fire engulfed them. At this point, Hannah lay severely burned on the ground, pleading for someone to save her kids. Michael thought at least one victim would survive this ordeal, but what he didn't realize was Hannah had suffered burns covering over 97% of her body, leaving only the soles of her feet unscathed. Despite the excruciating pain she endured, her primary concern was the well-being of her 3 young children. She knew she probably wouldn't survive this, yet she summoned immense strength to provide the police with 3 separate statements. Senior Constable Angus Gaines was the first police officer to arrive on the scene. When he reached Hannah, she was still alive and coherent, recounting the terrifying events that happened. Hannah made sure that the authorities knew who did this. She named Rowan Baxter. She identified him as her ex-husband. Not only that, she told Constable Gaines about the protection order against him. Hannah told him how Rowan had doused the car's interior with petrol before igniting it. She meticulously spelled out her name and described Baxter, including his attire. As Hannah's strength waned, Constable Gaines remained by her side, offering encouragement and support. Paramedics took over at this point, attempting to alleviate Hannah's pain as best they could. Tragically, despite medical efforts, she succumbed to her injuries later that day. She was only 31 years old. Equally heartbreaking, Aaliyah, Laianah, and Trey, aged 6, 4, and 3 respectively, perished in the fire.
Baxter children and Hannah Clarke were killed, and I don't believe at this stage there is any suspicious circumstances around the death of Rowan Baxter.
The investigation suggested that Baxter had initially planned to kidnap and murder Hannah before fleeing with the children, possibly intending to offer them the Kinder Surprise chocolates as a deceptive gesture. However, when Hannah's desperate plea for help altered his plans, he resorted to the heinous act of setting the car ablaze, robbing innocent lives of their futures. It's a despicable and cowardly act that defies logic. Despite Hannah's repeated attempts to seek help and break free from Rowan Baxter's control, the system failed to protect her. She had a restraining order, but it proved woefully insufficient in deterring Rowan's violent intentions. Rowan brazenly violated the terms of the restraining order. His escalating violence ended in the tragic events that unfolded on that fateful day, all while Hannah was desperately seeking legal protection.
Through this whole experience, she had amazing support from the police. They did absolutely everything they could. She did everything she could to fight them in the legal system, but she knew just from the feeling herself that she felt supported but not safe.
Coroner Jane Bentley offered a sobering assessment of the tragedy. Bentley, from her investigation into the murder, concluded that it was unlikely that anyone could have stopped Rowan Baxter after he got into the car. She described him as a master manipulator that entrapped Hannah and her children. While Rowan may not have been mentally ill, his proficiency in manipulation turned him into a formidable opponent. Her friends and family recall how Hannah was poised to embark on a new chapter in her life in 2020, filled with hope and excitement. She was on the verge of breaking free from the shackles of abuse, ready to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. Tragically, her journey towards freedom was violently interrupted, leaving behind a legacy of resilience and courage.
Nathaniel Clarke is determined to focus on the good times he had with his sister Hannah, but faces a long and difficult reckoning with what's happened.
In the aftermath of Hannah and her children's tragic deaths, her family established the Small Steps for Hannah Foundation, aiming to combat domestic violence in Australia. Hannah's severely burnt body left only a footprint, inspiring the foundation's name. Their goal is to halt domestic violence incidents in Australia, symbolized by the acronym HALT, representing Hannah, Aaliyah, Laianah, and Trey. In sharing Hannah's story, they hope to inspire others to recognize their worth and to stand up against abuse in all its forms. What are your thoughts on this heartbreaking story? Do you think there was something that could have been done better to avoid this tragedy? Share your thoughts and comments below. Let's raise awareness about domestic violence and honor the memory of Hannah Clarke and her 3 children. Never forgotten. For more exciting true crime, please watch our next video.